The capture. The sun hung low over the New Mexico horizon, bleeding orange across a sky that had long watched over battles, cattle, and broken promises. Clara Weston edged her mare deeper into the scrubland, her cotton riding dress fluttering like wings in the wind. Dust clung to the hem, but she didn't care. Out here, away from her father's ranch house, she could breathe. She wasn't running. Not quite, but neither was she content. At 19, Clara was already promised to Miguel Ramirez, a match her father called wise and her mother called inevitable. Miguel was strong, rich, and respected, but he didn't stare anything in Clara but a quiet dread. His hands were always too firm, his eyes too calculating. He spoke of land, livestock, and legacy, never of laughter, never of her. The wind shifted. A rustle to her left. Clara froze in the saddle. Her mare whinnied uneasily, hooves twitching against the cracked earth. Then, movement. Shadows. 5 riders, dark-skinned and silent as ghosts, emerged from behind a stand of juniper. Apache. Before she could turn, a whoop rang out like a hawk's cry, and Clara was yanked from the saddle. Her scream died in the desert wind as rough hands bound her wrists and muffled her protest. Her mare galloped off, untouched, a symbol, perhaps, of how little effort they thought it would take to control her. The Apache rode fast and far. The desert melted into dusk, and Clara's thoughts turned frantic. Why her? Was this revenge? Leverage? A warning to her father? Her heart pounded, not just with fear, but with a strange, growing fury. She would not beg. Not for Miguel. Not for her father. Not for anyone. Among the riders, one figure held back. A younger warrior, maybe mid-20s, whose eyes lingered on her longer than the others. He was tall, lean, and bore a vertical scar on his jaw. But his gaze held none of the hatred she'd expected. Only curiosity. Maybe guilt. That night, in a camp ringed by rocks and silence, Clara was tied near a dying fire. The others laughed, shared meat, and ignored her. All except him. He approached slowly, offering her a worn blanket and a wooden bowl of water. She stared at him, cautious but unflinching. His English was broken, his voice low. "I'm Talon," he said. "You, not scream like others." Clara swallowed. What good would it do? Talon tilted his head, studying her. "You are brave." She didn't answer. He didn't press. Later, after the others slept, Clara watched Talon from under heavy lids. He sat apart from the rest, sharpening his knife, eyes flicking toward her like a man trying not to look. She wondered what he saw, a spoiled rancher's daughter, a prisoner, or something he didn't yet understand. At dawn, Talon stood when Chief Garaclo approached her. The chief's words were sharp, his tone dismissive. Clara understood nothing but felt everything. The menace, the disdain, the threat. Talon said something in Apache. The chief glared, barked back, and stormed off. Clara raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" Talon hesitated. Then, "I say, you are not a thing." She blinked, stunned. That was the moment something shifted, subtle as a breeze, irreversible as thunder. Back at the Western Ranch, Miguel was pacing. His dark hair was slicked back, his boots spotless despite the search parties galloping in every direction. He spoke with Clara's father as though this were business, as though Clara's value were tied to reputation, not blood. "Find her, yes," Miguel said, "but we do not negotiate with savages." Her mother wept in the parlor. No one asked what Clara might want, only what she was worth. Back in the desert, Clara sat in the dirt, wrists raw, dignity intact. Talon sat opposite her, tossing a stone between his fingers. "You are promised?" he asked suddenly. She hesitated, then nodded. "To a man who sees me as an asset, not a person." Talon didn't smile, but something softened in his eyes. "You are not a thing," he said again, this time like a vow. The desert held its breath. And somewhere, beneath her fear and anger, Clara felt the first pull of something dangerous. Something that didn't belong to the ranch, to Miguel, or even to safety. Something, or someone, who saw her, not as a prize to be reclaimed, but a soul worth protecting. The bond. The nights in the desert were cruel, colder than Clara had imagined. Her breath steamed against the dry air as she lay stiff beneath a coarse Apache blanket. Still tied, but looser now, as if they no longer feared she'd run. She wouldn't. Not yet. Talon had given her the blanket again. He hadn't spoken much after the chief's scolding, but his silence was thick with conflict. Clara felt it like heat rising from stone, wordless, unresolved. In the morning, the camp stirred early. Warriors moved like wraiths, tending fires, sharpening arrows, whispering among themselves. No one acknowledged her, not even with contempt. But Talon returned, this time with roasted corn and a strip of dried meat. He untied her hands slowly, as if to show he trusted her, or wanted her to trust him. "You eat," he said simply. She nodded, brushing sand from her lap. "Do you always feed your prisoners?" Talon looked away. "Only the ones who speak with fire in their eyes." She chewed in silence, unsure whether to feel complimented or wary. Probably both. Later, while the others rode out, Clara remained behind, guarded only by Talon. He brought her water and sat on a nearby boulder, silent again. "You don't seem like the others," she said. "I am Apache," he replied, but without force. "Yes, but different." Talon shrugged. "I do not like what is done to women." "What a piece." Clara tilted her head. "Then why stay?" He hesitated. "Family. Blood. Pride. It is not easy to leave a path you were born into." Clara nodded slowly. "I know something about that." Their eyes met, not just with curiosity now, but recognition. Both of them, bound in lives chosen for them. Her by ranchers, blood and marriage alliances. Him by tribal loyalty and inherited war. As the sun climbed, Talon allowed her to stretch, walk a few paces. No escape was possible out here. The horizon was endless, dry, and merciless. "How long do you plan to keep me?" she asked. Talon didn't answer. Instead, he gestured to a cactus flower blooming nearby, pink and defiant against the dust. "This flower," he said, "blooms only in struggle. You are like this." Clara's breath caught, though she didn't show it. "You speak like a poet," she murmured. He shrugged. "I speak what I feel, not always what I should." She turned from him, not to dismiss, but to hide the blush that warmed her cheeks. She was promised, engaged, but the man who was meant to love her had never once spoken to her heart this way. He called her beautiful, but Talon called her brave. And it was not the same. That night, as stars spilled across the desert sky, Clara asked Talon about his name. "I was born during a storm," he explained. "My mother said the wind sounded like the cry of a hawk. So, Talon, and have I been born in your tribe?" she asked. He looked at her for a long moment, the firelight casting sharp shadows across his face. "You would be a woman of spirit, a leader's daughter, perhaps my match." The words stunned her, not for their boldness, but their tenderness. In the quiet that followed, Clara whispered, "My fiancé never asked what I want." "What do you want?" Talon asked gently. She didn't answer right away. Then, almost breathless, to feel free, to be seen. Talon stood slowly and untied her hands for the night. No threats, no warnings, just trust. "You are seen," he said, "by me." He turned away and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Clara stunned and sleepless. Back at the Western Ranch, Miguel inspected rifles and organized riders. He wore concern-like armor, performative, strategic. "Make sure we're seen searching," he told one of the hired guns. No daughter of Western marries into weakness. When asked if he loved Clara, Miguel only scoffed. "She'll learn her place." But in the desert, Clara had already begun to unlearn everything she had been told about her place. The desert was still. The fire cracked softly, and within her, a quiet rebellion bloomed. She was beginning to forget fear, and starting to remember herself. And somewhere between the boundaries of tribe and family, between duty and desire, something dangerous and undeniable had taken root. Not yet love, not yet betrayal, but something close. The betrayal. The sun baked the land mercilessly, turning the sand to ash beneath Clara's feet. Days had passed, but time in the Apache camp moved without rhythm, only instinct. She had stopped counting how long she'd been gone. Yet somehow, she was no longer just a captive. Her hands were unbound. Her spirit no longer screamed. And Talon had become her shadow. They didn't speak every hour, but their silences were full. Every glance between them stretched longer than it should, and every word shared was weighed with meaning. That morning, as Clara watched the warriors prepare for a hunt, she turned to Talon. "Why am I still here?" she asked. "You are not prisoner now," he said. "You are between two worlds." Clara frowned. "So I'm neither hostage nor free." "You are choice," he said simply. Her breath caught. He had a way of saying things, quiet, soft, that cracked open parts of her no one had ever touched. Not even herself. Later, Talon took her to a ridge overlooking the valley. Below, wild horses grazed, and the sky burned in hues of copper and gold. "This place," he said, "was where I first saw you. When the raid began. You knew they were coming." He nodded, jaw tight. "I tried to stop it. Chief Gayakla says war is our only future. I do not agree." Clara sat on a flat rock beside him. "Then why didn't you leave?" Talon didn't speak at first. Then, quietly, "I had nothing to go to." She met his eyes. "You do now." They sat in silence, the unspoken thick between them. And for the first time, Clara reached out. Her fingers brushed against his. Not held, not clutched, just touched. That was when the scout arrived, breathless, urgent. Apache words flew fast between him and Talon, too quick for Clara to follow. But she didn't need translation. Danger was coming. Talon turned to her, jaw clenched. "Ranchers, they come. With your man, Miguel." Talon's expression darkened. "They ride with guns. With fire. Not to talk." Clara stood, panic rising. "My father, he wouldn't let them kill indiscriminately." "Your man would." She hesitated. "Then we must stop them." Talon looked at her, something storming behind his calm. "There is no stopping this. Only escaping it." He turned and began gathering supplies. She followed, her voice trembling. "What are you doing?" "Taking you away." Her heart thudded. "They'll call you a traitor." "I already am." The full weight of his decision hit her. Not just rebellion, but exile. If he helped her leave, he would sever himself from his people. Forever. "You would give up everything, for me," she whispered. He paused, then looked into her eyes. "I give up what was never mine, to protect what should be." Emotion surged through her, so sudden it almost hurt. The walls she'd built, around her engagement, her expectations, her upbringing, cracked like thin ice. As the camp erupted into hurried motion, Talon guided her to the edge of the canyon. They moved quickly, shadows beneath the setting sun. Behind them, the sound of hooves approached, not just Apache warriors returning, but the angry roar of Miguel's riders. "You don't have to do this," she said breathlessly. "I do," he replied, "because when I look at you, I see truth. And I will not be a man who turns away from truth." Clara stopped walking. "Talon." He faced her, dust on his brow, eyes full of torment. "Say it." She stepped forward, placed a hand on his chest. "My heart never belonged to Miguel." "Then who?" "To someone who saw me before I knew who I was." Silence wrapped around them, and then they kissed. It was not desperate. It was not hurried. It was a kind of kiss that strips away every lie you've ever told yourself. When they broke apart, the sound of gunfire echoed in the distance. Talon pulled her close. "We must go." They disappeared into the rocks, their path steep, their fate uncertain. Behind them, fire lit the Apache sky, and the first cries of war rang across the valley. Clara didn't look back, and Talon, now truly alone, walked beside her, not as her captor, but her equal. Her choice, the Finwell. The desert stretched endlessly before them, silent and gold under the rising sun. Talon and Clara moved through its harsh terrain like whispers, unseen, unwelcomed, but determined. Behind them, smoke curled from the Apache camp. War had ignited, and there would be no peace now. Not for him, not for her. Each mile they walked was a mile farther from the world they'd known. His of pressed linens and arranged futures, his of tribal bonds and unspoken codes. But in this harsh in-between, they had found something raw and real. By the third night, they reached a canyon nestled between jagged cliffs. Here, Talon paused. He knew this place, a sacred ground rarely tread. Safe, for now. Clara collapsed to her knees near a dry stream bed, her body aching, her heart torn between love and grief. "I can't go back," she whispered. Talon crouched beside her, hands rough yet tender. "You must." Her eyes searched his face. "Not to Miguel. Not to that life." Talon looked away, his jaw tight. "You cannot stay with me, Clara. I have no tribe now, no name among them. I will be hunted by both sides." She reached for him, hands trembling. "Then we leave together, somewhere distant. Start over." But Talon's silence said more than words. His life had no beginning beyond this earth, no path that ended in comfort or society's arms. He belonged to the wild, to silence, to exile. And Clara had only borrowed his world. She had tasted freedom, but she wasn't forged in fire. Not like him. "You are stronger than you know," Talon said softly. "But your strength must live where it can grow." Clara shook her head. "You changed me. And you saved me," he replied, placing a hand over her heart. "But we are not meant to finish this together." The words shattered her, not because she didn't see the truth, but because she did. They sat in silence for what felt like hours. The desert wind whispered through the canyon, carrying echoes of what might have been. Her head rested on his shoulder, his arm curled around her like a shield he could no longer raise. When the time came, Talon stood and handed her a pouch of water and a small compass, his only possession from a trader long ago. "This will guide you north," he said. "There's a town half a day's walk. Tell them who you are. They will not harm you." Clara stood slowly, holding the compass like a piece of his soul. "What will you do?" Talon glanced toward the cliffs. "Keep walking. Keep breathing." He hesitated, then stepped forward and kissed her one last time. It wasn't desperate like before. It was final, reverent. "I will never forget you," he said. Tears stung her eyes, but she smiled through them. "Nor I you." Then, without another word, he turned and disappeared into the rocks. She watched him until the desert swallowed him whole. Hours later, Clara emerged from the canyon alone. Dusty, silent, changed. The town saw her as a miracle. The rancher's daughter returned. But she offered no answers, no tales of war or romance. Only silence. A silence she wore like armor. She broke her engagement to Miguel with a single sentence. "My heart has already chosen." He raged, of course. Blustered. Accused. But she didn't flinch. She didn't need permission to be free. Months passed. Life resumed. The land healed. Slowly, stubbornly. And once a year, Clara returned to the canyon. Alone. She'd sit beside the dry stream bed, where wind whispered Talon's name, and trace her fingers over the old compass. Still ticking. Still true. There, in the stillness, she'd remember a man who had no home, who gave up everything to protect a stranger who became more. He had walked away not because he didn't love her, but because he loved her enough to let her go. And in that, Clara found a strength deeper than any she'd known. Love had not rescued her. It had revealed her, and that she would carry forever.